Let's bring back in veteran U.S. Army Captain Doug Truax. Captain, thanks for your service to America. What's your assessment of all this? Do you think Trump will resume airstrikes? Because, Iran's parliament speaker is saying negotiations won't begin until there's a ceasefire in Lebanon and Iranian assets are unfrozen. There's zero chance the U.S. will release Iran's financial assets. What's your assessment?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for having me on, Liz. I think the chances of us bombing again are very high. It's a 50-50 at best. I don't think that they're showing any credence to what we're asking for. They're asking for these assets to be unfrozen. That's ridiculous. I think we're getting to a place now where we're saying, the ceasefire for us was more of this opportunity to take a breath. And I think we're militarily looking at the options that we have to really decimate them further along that coast to get the strait open, because I understand NATO is talking about helping us and everything, but in reality, it's going to be us. If it's too hard to escort ships through, or if the Iranians are still causing problems, NATO's not going to be much of a help. So we're going to have to do it ourselves more than likely. And at this point, the Iranians don't look like they've got their act together, nor do they want to have their act together. So I think it's probably turning into a moment for us to pick some more targets, figure this out, and really get serious about getting that strait open ourselves, because we're not going to be able to rely on them.
So the U.S. would open it because, it's interesting. Reuters is reporting this optimism, this hope that Middle East nations, Saudi Aramco, Kuwait, Iraq, they're preparing for oil shipping to resume in the Hormuz Strait by the end of this month and in May, that they have asked Asian refiners in Asia to submit their lists of their oil tankers to pick up that crude out of the Strait. There's a backlog of something like 3,200 vessels, including more than 800 oil tankers. What do you make of that report out of Reuters?
Well, I'm hopeful. I think it's a little wishful thinking right now, based on how the Iranians are viewing this. The ceasefire for them is an opportunity to try to flex their muscle and say, no, we're still in charge of this international waterway, which they're not. But they say now it's their right to control it, which they've always done over 47 years here and there. They've flexed on this and basically hurt the world economy at different times. They're trying to do it again as leverage. And I think we have to keep holding out the opportunity that we're going to have to go back in, and after having picked some more targets and figured it out more deliberately, be more effective along that area where we can actually hurt them in their ability to control that strait.
Got it. Captain, now President Trump said that U.S. forces will stay in the region until Iran makes good on his peace deal. Let's get your reaction to Democrat Senator John Fetterman telling Jesse Waters the media has been reporting Iranian propaganda and not calling out Iran's human rights abuses and terror support. Watch this.
Senator, do some members of your party think Trump is more dangerous than the Iranians?
I can't speak for my other Democrats, but the American media has essentially become carrying water for Iran, and they're describing it the kinds of circumstances, and they forget the way Iran has behaved. And why can't we just call what Iran has been and what it continues to do those things? America is the force of good in the world, and holding Iran accountable what they've done is important.
What is your take on that? Because the word is that Iran is waiting for, the domestic on the domestic side here in the U.S. to turn against Trump. That's the card they're playing too. What's your take?
Well, they're definitely trying to get that done, and from an asymmetric warfare standpoint, you don't blame them for trying, because the Democrats are trying to help them do it. And Fetterman's right. I mean, we've got all these years of these guys doing this to us, and frankly, if they get a nuclear weapon and could kill all of us, they would do it. And these guys are ideological Islamo-fascist murderers, and we have to call them what they are. And so we have to keep pushing back on them, and we have to keep convincing the American people that, look, this is in our national interest to make sure these guys do not have enriched uranium, and it's in our national interest to get that strait open. And regardless of what any Democrat says that has TDS at any given time, we do have national interests, and this is still in line with it, and we're still making progress. We just have to get something done inside the ceasefire that actually helps us going forward. And if we don't, we're going to go back to square one a little bit with the military. But the good news is we've got the best military in the world, and they've already proven it.
Captain Truax, let's take a listen to General David Petraeus saying he wishes individual NATO allies were more supportive of the conflict with Iran. Watch.
General Petraeus, I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying correctly. Are you suggesting that President Trump is right in that NATO should have come in and helped militarily with the war in Iran?
No, I'm saying that individual NATO countries, I wish that they had been more supportive. An awful lot of them tried to sort of thread a needle here, saying we could use their base for defensive purposes only and so forth. In the end of the day, they actually did make available their bases with the exception of Spain, and that's an issue that will have to be dealt with down the road. That does have to be addressed. But in this case, we are fighting an enemy who poses a threat not just to countries in the Gulf, but to countries in Europe as well.
What do you think, Captain?
Yeah, the point he's making about the missile range. I mean, they were lying to us before about, oh, we don't have missiles that can go that far. And then they shot him at Diego Garcia, which proves the point that they can reach London and all these other cities in Europe. And they're trying to get a nuclear weapon. And so I can't imagine, I'm with Petraeus on this, NATO, it'd be great if it all came together, but there are certainly countries that have stood by us before. And the tariff thing aside and Greenland aside and everything else, this is much more important than that. And it's disheartening that they're not seeing it. Now they have an opportunity to step in and do something. I know the NATO Secretary General was talking that way, but they've got to get moving.
Right.
They got to help us.
We've got news coming in. We're showing a live shot of the president. He is now on his way to Charlottesville, Virginia tonight. What do you make of this Washington Post report that China urged Iran to accept the ceasefire? The New York Times is reporting it too. We know China is the biggest buyer of oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. It gets about up to half of its crude oil imports from the Strait. It's a big, nearly 40% of all oil exports flowing through that key choke point goes to China. But so what's the play here with China and the peace talks with Iran?
Well, perhaps I'm overly patriotic, but anytime the Chinese want us to do something, I'm hesitant to do it. But in this case, I understand we want to get to a bigger piece here. But the fact of the matter is,
okay, we got to take a break.
The
The president's speaking to the press. Let's take a listen.
What's going on? They're militarily defeated, and now we're going to open up the Gulf with or without them. But that'll be open. We're going to be, or the Strait as they call it, and I think it's going to go pretty quickly. And if it doesn't, we'll be able to finish it off one way or the other. It's going well. The Navy's gone, the Air Force is gone, all anti-aircraft is gone, the leaders are gone, the whole place is gone. So we'll see how it turns out. So it's JD and Steve and Jared. You have a good team, and they meet tomorrow. We'll see how it all works out.
You're not going to let them toll the strait, are you? I mean, it's international.
No, we're not going to let that. It's international water. If they're doing that, nobody knows if they're doing that. But if they're doing that, we're not going to let that happen.
What would a good deal look like for you?
No nuclear weapon, number one. I think it's already been regime change, but we never had that as a criteria. No nuclear weapon. That's 99% of it.
Strait of Hormuz as well?
Yeah, but that'll open up automatically. The answer is yes, but the Strait will open up. If we just left, the Strait's going to, otherwise they make no money. So the Strait's going to open. But what we have is no nuclear weapon, but we'll open the Strait anyway. Don't forget, we don't use the Strait. Other countries use the Strait. So we do have other countries coming up, and they'll help out, but we don't use it. It won't be easy. It won't be, I would say this, we will have that open fairly soon.
What's your backup plan? What's your backup plan if there's no field opens?
You don't need a backup plan. We have, the military is defeated. Their military is gone. They have, we've degraded just about everything. They have very few missiles. They have very little manufacturing capability. We've hit them hard. Our military is amazing, the job they've done.
Sorry, sir, is this a one-and-done talk, or are you open to more talks after this, depending on
I don't know. I can't tell you. I have to see what happens tomorrow. They've been talking for 47 years with other presidents, and we're not doing much talking. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, let's get back to Captain Truax. That's the president just speaking now to the press. Captain Truax, here's what he said. The highlights here, Captain. We will open up the Strait of Hormuz with or without Iran. It's going well. This is international waters. The Strait of Hormuz will open up. The president also said a good deal with Iran would be no nuclear weapons. There's already been regime change. Captain, what do you make of what the president just said?
Well, you got to stick to the plan, and that's our national interest, to get the Strait open and getting the nuclear weapon material out of there. I think, too, from a military standpoint, when you think about targeting, there's only so many offensive targets they can use inside Iran to threaten ships in the Strait. So if we have an opportunity to ongoing, in this window of time to figure out all of them, there is a window of time after that where we can attack them. And I think that's on the way. And then this conversation about, okay, who's going to go get the enriched uranium? I mean, that's got to come out of there, and that's got to happen soon.
Captain Doug Truax, thanks again for your service to America.